A Canyon City man spent time in jail, temporarily lost his license, and now has to drive with a breathalyzer, all for a crime he did not commit.
Well, tonight, serious questions surrounding the DUI arrest of Melvin Thurber after News 5 Investigates found discrepancies in that officer's report. Chief investigative reporter Eric Ross in the studio tonight with a story you'll only see on News 5. Eric.
Rob and Elizabeth, good evening. In this probable cause arrest report, a Canyon City police officer made statements indicative of someone who is intoxicated. But Melvin Thurber claims he was having a diabetic episode, and a doctor who medically cleared him contradicts the evidence the officer used to arrest Mr. Thurber. The discrepancies between the medical report and officer's report now has Canyon City's police chief taking a second look at the case. It was just after 11 o'clock on a Friday night when Melvin Thurber says he became disoriented while driving.
Something happened. I just lost track of where I was. I didn't even know where I was. And I started panicking.
According to police, Thurber was near the intersection of Highway 50 and Orchard.
I knew I had to get the food because there's something really going wrong with me.
Thurber believes he was having a diabetic episode and needed food. An officer pulled him over just yards away from a restaurant parking lot.
I said, I don't know what's going on with me. I believe it's my diabetes. I think my sugar is really, really low. And I'm trying to get to a restaurant, and this restaurant right in front of us is where I was heading.
The officer said Thurber was weaving in and out of traffic lanes, although when we requested to review any body-worn camera video or dash camera video of the incident, we were told none existed.
Unfortunately, right now, we don't have the budget to really put dashboard cameras in every vehicle. At the point that Mr. Thurber was contacted by our officer, we didn't have a dashboard camera inside that officer's car.
According to the arresting officer's report, Thurber was pulled over at 11:06 p.m. The officer stated Thurber's eyes were constricted, his eyelids were droopy and appeared drowsy. His speech was slurred, his voice raspy, his body movements sluggish and lethargic. Yet when Mr. Thurber was seen by a doctor 51 minutes later at 11:57 p.m., the medical notes paint a much different picture. The doctor said Mr. Thurber was alert, his eyes were fine, he was calm, cooperative, and pleasant. He did not appear intoxicated. It's a report Canyon City's police chief says he's never seen. Is that a concern to you, the discrepancies in that report?
So anytime that there is conflicting information from what we see in our investigations, we are bound to follow back up on that. And the report that you provided us from the hospital, we did not have at the time of the investigation.
News 5 Investigates later discovered the arresting officer was not a certified drug recognition expert at the time. Certified drug recognition experts have intense training and can determine whether impairment is related to alcohol, drugs, or perhaps a medical issue. On the night of the traffic stop, Thurber says he declined a breathalyzer and demanded medical attention. But for whatever reason at the hospital, a blood sample was not collected, and police never asked for a court order to get one. If someone doesn't consent to a field sobriety test, why not get a court order to draw their blood?
Those are somewhat reserved for very serious cases. So in other words, if an individual has multiple felony DUI arrests prior to that were actually convictions, and so this would be a more serious offense, or if somebody was actually injured during the DUI or there was a crash involved, that would warrant that next step of making sure that we had all evidence to ensure a successful prosecution by obtaining a court order.
The criminal case involving Thurber was anything but successful. The case never even went to trial because the district attorney's office tossed it out. But that didn't stop the DMV from revoking Thurber's license. In this letter dated January 16, 2019, the DMV told Thurber he can get his license back after paying a $95 reinstatement fee, taking a Level 2 drug and alcohol treatment class, and installing an ignition interlock device, also known as a breathalyzer.
I am so frustrated with all this. And you know, if you're innocent, I don't know about anybody else, but I don't just give up.
The DMV made Thurber pay $100 to have this portable breathalyzer installed. He also has to pay a monitoring fee of $73.97, a daily loss protection plan fee of $8.88. You know, just in case you lose the system that never leaves your car and a $25 administrative fee for a total installation cost of $207.85. Now that does not include the $165 Thurber will have to pay every 67 days for the next 2 years.
I had nowhere else to turn, so that's why I called. Maybe somebody should hear the story, and maybe somebody can reach out and touch them and talk to them.
We tried multiple times by phone and through email. At first, we were told the DMV cannot comment on a specific individual and that the dismissal of the criminal case does not negate or diminish the effect of the administrative law as it relates to any suspension or revocation of driving privileges. In other words, the DMV plays by its own rules, and we wanted to talk generically about that decision-making process. Through the same spokesperson, the newly appointed executive director for the Department of Revenue said she isn't able to grant an interview on this topic. So, with Mr. Thurber's permission, we tried a third time to ask about his case. We even offered to have Mr. Thurber sign a privacy waiver. The DMV's spokesperson declined, saying the DMV has an obligation to protect the privacy of residents who entrust us with their information, and advised us that the DMV cannot help resolve their questions via the media. But Thurber only reached out for our help after he says he waited hours on the phone trying to talk with anyone at the DMV about his case.
They don't seem to care about the real truth. Nobody seems to care.
But unlike the DMV, the Canyon City Police Department has promised to fact-check the case based on our investigation.
The information that you gave us is new. Our goal here is to do the best investigations that we can and be as transparent and accountable as possible. And so, with this case or any others, if we've made mistakes, we'll absolutely own up to them and learn from them and try and make them right as best we can.
For now, Thurber is required to blow into an interlock device every time he gets in his car, a reminder of the crime he didn't commit.
Yeah, all I want is a fair shake, and somebody ought to know what the real truth is.
Thurber says he has unsuccessfully tried to appeal to the DMV to hear his case. Now, we should point out Mr. Thurber does have a misdemeanor DUI conviction that happened more than 2 decades ago, but the only other traffic-related conviction that we could find in the last decade was a speeding ticket. And Rob and Elizabeth, it's unclear whether those things played any role in the DMV's decision to pull Thurber's license, although we do know their action was initiated based on the Canyon City Police Department's arrest, which again, the judge tossed out.
Now, going back to that original discrepancy between the officer's report, the medical report, any indication the officer lied on his report?
Absolutely not. Here's the deal. People who are having a diabetic episode can appear drunk and disoriented, which Mr. Thurber does not dispute. He says before the officer put him in handcuffs, he ate a piece of candy he found in his center console and immediately started feeling better, which would explain why by the time he arrived at the hospital, medical staff didn't see anything wrong with him. My law enforcement sources are telling me that this is a red flag that maybe this individual wasn't really intoxicated, but again, at the time this traffic stop was conducted, the officer was not a certified drug recognition expert. He is still on the force and he is certified now. But developing story, much more to come.
Yeah, I feel so bad for him. Eric, thank you.